Hi, my name is Jacob Peterson. I did my topic on post high school success, and this topic first intrigued me when I found an article that explained that 60% of middle class seniors failed to reach a bachelor's degree from 2008 to 2012. This really shocked me and left me wanting to learn more about this issue. Although this issue affects most of the nation, I set my scope locally so that it would be more relevant to me and the rest of the class. I interviewed our principal, Con McCartan, who gave me helpful information about EPHS's post high school success, including how it is determined, what are the indicators of it, and why it ultimately matters.
I think it's important because our goal isn't just to get kids to graduate. We're education is about preparing people for their future. So if all you were interested in was just do you graduate or not, you wouldn't be interested in what happens afterwards. We're interested in what happens afterwards as a marker of did we accomplish what we want to accomplish, and it becomes particularly important in our community because there is a almost universal expectation in our community that your formal education doesn't stop with high school, that you go on to more education. So it's important to track that, to have an idea of are we fulfilling our mission? Are we getting students ready to be successful in the next chapter of their life? So I was it's a group that's made up of representatives from the Office of Higher Education, which oversees post-secondary institutions, the Minnesota Department of Education, which kind of takes care of early childhood all the way through 12th grade education, and then DEED, which is the Department of Employment and Economic Development. And it was a task force that was commissioned by the legislature. I got on it because they wanted to have a representative principal serve as part of the Minnesota Department of Education, part of that group. So the group functions to put together data to literally track people from birth to employment, to try to see what are the patterns of success, to your earlier question. What are the patterns of success? What are the markers that say somebody is on track for kindergarten because of their early childhood experiences, or are on track to read because of their kindergarten, first, second, and third grade experiences, or is on track to be successful in high school because of their experiences up through eighth grade, or is on track to be successful in college, is on track to be successful as a gainfully employed person. So I got on that group to help pull together those data sets and then inform how do we present the data in a way that can make sense and is usable to achieve those outcomes of determining, what are the ways to create success pathways for people to reach ultimately a fulfilling life. I don't want to make it sound too flowery, but that's kind of the idea behind it. Not too much, I think, because we sort of knew that. The thing that probably surprised me was we've never had a absolute confirmation of that. We've tried some follow-up surveys with graduates and things like that, but the results are always a little sketchy because it depends on who sends them back. Tapping into the information that this task force that I'm on provided to us allows us to have a very reliable third-party research source tell us, where kids go to school, whether or not they achieve some kind of a degree within a period of time like 5 years. So I guess it didn't surprise me that we were successful. I will say that it surprised me a little bit in comparison to some other schools that we were as successful as we were. In general, I think people kind of think of, I'll use Edina as an example. There's a place where everybody goes to college, everybody gets a degree, and we're either right there or a couple of percentage points higher than Edina in terms of college going rate, persistence in college, and degree attainment. So it was affirming. I don't know if surprising is the right word. It was affirming that we are right there with the best schools in the state. because prior to having this data, we relied on things like we sort of, based on what we knew about our graduates, we assumed that the curriculum and the programming that we have is college preparatory curriculum. We assume that based on, there's a, ACT, I'll use as an example, has a gigantic data resource behind it that talks about college readiness based on the score that a student can attain. But all of those things are sort of proxies. They're predictors of success. And our scores were telling us, they predicted our kids would be really successful in college. So there's the predictor scores, and then there's the actual scores themselves. So I think the measures that tell us or predict whether or not our kids will be successful are things like, are they successfully navigating their way through our program? If you are earning credits and attaining solid grades, you're probably going to be college ready. If you're getting high scores on exams like the ACT, you're probably college ready. And the great part is now we have direct evidence that says, yes, those are good predictors for that. As a matter of fact, we tend to outperform our predictors, our scores, in actual college performance. So it's like they might even underpredict a little bit success of our graduates in college. So that question in two ways, and the first is, I think schools should echo what their community's desires are. I want to be careful to not assume that in every community it's everyone's desire that everybody gets an associate's degree or beyond. It could, there are lots of paths to life happiness, and not all of them have to be through a degree. So it could be that in certain communities there's not as high a percentage of students that go on to get a post-high school degree, because in those communities students go to work or go to the military or things like that, and they achieve happiness and contentment in their life that way. But on the second one, if indeed they would like to increase that, I think the way that you do that is you take a look at the preparation, your programming. Is your programming, I'll use language you probably know, are the learning targets, are the essential learnings that are in the classes of a adequate level of rigor that they help get kids ready to be successful in college? So it's not just, are you getting them to a high school diploma, but does the program that gets them that high school diploma also get them ready to be successful in college? I think schools should be held responsible for preparing kids for whatever it is their desire for the next step. So post-secondary success, if that means in a blanket way, then I say yes, that is our task. If it's college, I would back off on that a little bit, because I would want to be careful to say we should assume that's everybody's ultimate desire. And I would even back off a little bit and say, and I just want to make sure as I'm answering this, I'm not ducking accountability, because I'm very willing to be held accountable for the success of our graduates. But at a certain point in time after you've left high school, the impact of your high school education has to wear off. You don't learn everything you need to learn in high school, and that applies to you when you're 55 years old. That's just not true. And as a matter of fact, that's probably true somewhere in your post-high school education. Somewhere in college that has an impact. And frankly, because for the most part, every place you go after high school, you have to pay for that education, other variables enter in. People may not get degrees because of economics. Well, how should we be held morally responsible if somebody can't afford to finish their degree? See what I'm saying? So I think there are variables that begin to be introduced once a student leaves high school, that impacts their ability to attain their goals that can't possibly be the responsibility of the high school. But their preparation for that, I think, belongs to us. I think people need to be able to see the degree to which we are accomplishing our mission of getting kids ready for whatever's next in their life, to a degree that is much greater than people believe based on a simple number. And I'm going to give you an example. So people want to compare schools based on a number like the average ACT score. Around here, the average ACT score of Eden Prairie is lower than it is at Edina or Minnetonka or Wayzata. It's lower than that. Not a lot, but lower. And so people might say Edina, Minnetonka, and Wayzata are better schools to go to be prepared for college. But interestingly enough, when you look at the numbers that we now have about actually going to college and actually getting a degree, Eden Prairie is higher than all of those schools. So there's something else that you can't measure on an ACT test that happens here, either as a result of some combination of our community and our school and our students and our teachers that makes up the difference between the predicted order of those schools and the actual order of those schools. So I think that's why it's important that people know the actual results of this, because in the end, that's what's the most important thing. Not the predicted thing, but the actual outcome.
The one thing I keep coming back to is, why are other schools failing while we're thriving at this? And two suggestions I have for them are these. Look at your community and see what you truly desire for your students, if you want a degree or for them to have a job or whatever. And second, to stop putting so much into predictors like ACTs and rather look at the facts of your past history and then go from there on your next step.